Made it back. All right. Yo, yo. Glad to see everybody back in the place to be. Welcome. Kanga Kong, number one. Lane C. Good morning. Good morning, Cupcake 701. And thank everybody who came back to join us this last time for the night. We're going to pick up where we left off in our read. So we just read, where did we end at? Okay. Chapter 2. All right, everybody. Mushrooms in the Desert. Page 21. I'm going to begin and jump right in. This is the reading, the continuation of the reading of After the Dance, My Life with Marvin Gaye by Janice Gaye, that we talked a lot about this in the last reading. It is a direct connection to Project Janice, which I do believe Marvin Gaye was certainly a part of, maybe an early candidate for. But I find it interesting, all of the things surrounding duality and, in Marvin, from even the way that the book cover is done to make it appear like he's black and she's white. Not as in skin tone, but in the color, the hue, darkness, and light. But more importantly, the name of his biography was called, I think that's my problem too, King of Kong. I do believe I'm going to have to go ahead and refresh, actually get some more high speed. And that's okay. But we're gonna use up the last of it. It's just 2 chapters, 20 pages. So I'm going to try to run through it. But yet, Marvin's biography was called Divided Soul, Duality in the Meaning of It. But look at this. Again, her name is Janice. She goes by Jan, related to Jen. Janice, also where you get Junius, or Gemini and Gemini, all come from Janice. And look at the date that the book was published. I just find these coincidences to just be off the chain. This happens to be the date that the powers that be considered the beginning of Gemini, the twin sign, which Janice is symbolic of. That is quite a coincidence, and you'll find a lot of those coincidences as we read this story, especially folks already familiar with mind control. So let's start with Mushrooms in the Desert. At 17, I was obsessed with a single question after meeting Marvin in the studio. Will he call me? My desire to be ushered back into Marvin's magical world was fueled by my unhappiness at home. Since leaving Ruth's 3 years earlier, I had watched my mother struggle with sanity. Mom's breakdown was precipitated by Earl's infidelity. It happened when I was 15, and on the spur of the moment, Mom hustled me into the car. Where are we going to, Mom? Renee's. Renee was Mom's best friend. What's happening at Renee's? I asked. Maybe I'm crazy, but something tells me she's up to something. Earl's yellow car was in Renee's driveway. That's all Mom needed to see. She raced back home and threw Earl's clothes out on the street. Less than a year later, Renee gave birth to Earl's child. It's a sticky, messed up situation. So this girl's mama's best friend is messing with Earl too. Earl's name was on something we just looked at, right? From Marvin. Oh, Anger. Interesting. That was the year Mom retreated into inconsolable depression. Her only comfort came from her dog, Daisy, with whom she became obsessed. Ain't they? Ain't they? I bring it. They say, yeah, yeah. I might even look around. You might find it on eBay or something too. But yeah, Cupcake said it's on the Amazon wish list. Secret Service. Sometimes you made me wonder about you. Let's see here. So it says boys flocked to me, but they were just okay, okay, all right. Her mother's only comfort came from her dog, Daisy, with whom she became obsessed. She could not stand to be without Daisy for a single second, and lavished far more affection on the animal than she did on me. So her mama showing more attention to the dog than she did on me, who at the start of high school had matured physically. Hello, everybody. Okay. Boys flocked to me, but they were just that, boys. I sought something more. When my teachers praised my intelligence, I began to understand that was the quality I sought in the opposite sex. When another teacher praised my sensitivity, I realized that was the very thing these boys lacked. I made friends with some of the boys in the Fairfax High crowd. Oh my God, y'all's not finna believe this. Okay, ready? Hold on to something. Hold on to something. I made friends with some of the boys in the Fairfax High School crowd, the Jackson brothers, Jackie, Jermaine, and Tito, and a few of their future wives. I also knew Veronica Porsche, who would later marry Muhammad Ali. That was when I was 15. Is this for real? At 17, the day after meeting Marvin, I was waiting for my phone to ring. This is crazy. A million thoughts raced through my mind. I remembered how only a week before meeting Marvin, I had encountered Don Cornelius of Soul Train fame. I had gone to a Lakers game at the Forum with my friend Destiny, and a couple of the players had invited us to an after party at the Continental Hyatt House on the Sunset Strip. In a crowded room filled with people who, at least to our impressionable minds, appeared super sophisticated, we tried to be cool. When someone offered me a line, I presumed it was cocaine. Cocaine was hardly anything new to me. I ingested it quickly. Within minutes, though, I felt sick. I heard someone say that the white powder was heroin, not cocaine. The next thing I knew, I was in the bathroom, my head in the toilet, regurgitating like a child with the flu. But being young and healthy, I recovered quickly. I cleaned up and rejoined the party. This is out the door. Destiny and I were hardly loose girls. We simply wanted to step out on the edge and see what a real after party was all about. After becoming sick, though, the fascination ended and we decided to call it a night. On the street in front of the hotel, we were looking to hail a cab, but none were available. That's when Don Cornelius pulled up in a big sedan. Okay, see, this is not no coincidence. She is actually being hired out for this. You can't tell me she's not. Okay. Whew, terrible, terrible situation. All right, okay. Be happy to give you ladies a ride, he offered. Recognizing him immediately, we figured it would be safe. Don was the perfect gentleman. On the night I had met Marvin, he too had been the perfect gentleman. This is too much. That was well and good, but had he forgotten me? The call came the next day. Mom picked up the receiver. "Hi, Ed," she said. "What's happening?" I ran over and tried to hear what Ed Townsend was telling my mom. Excuse me. I couldn't make out his words, but I didn't have to. Mom's smile said everything. When the call was over, Mom said, "Marvin wants to see you again." Okay, this is okay. How is anybody reading this book thinking this is normal, organic stuff that's happening here? I believe, I believe it's happening like this, but we're not being told what this environment really is that she's in. Right? Black Blonde say, "Coincidence, my foot." Vanette Lau say, "Thank you, Brother Theo, for reading this." Right? Cupcake 701. She sound like a Hollywood pass-around girl, don't she? She's snorting heroin by mistake. It's too much going on. She hopping in cars with Don Cornelius. She go to school with the Jackson boys. And her book was published on the beginning of Gemini. Now, I'm just, I was born at night. It's a prostitution ring. That's right, Vanette, don't it? The setup, Sweet Lady 0512. That's Alona, not normal at all. I'm verklempt. I don't even know. It says, "I can't believe this." Her mama saying this to her like it's okay. When the call was over, right, she really hobnobbed with the famous, right, in a major way. When the call was over, Mom said, "Marvin wants to see you again." "When?" "Tonight." Wow. "And without me." Like her mama, what mama's gonna go? Okay. My first reaction was that I wanted my mother to come along. I wanted the security of her company. My second reaction, though, was that I didn't want her there. I was thrilled by the thought that Marvin wanted to see me alone. "Is it okay for me to go alone?" I asked. "Ed's coming by to pick you up tonight." See, Ed is brokering this woman. Ed come from Motown. So he's brokering this, yeah, that's what this is. Okay. "I can see clearly now." Okay, it says, this is crazy. Okay. It says, "Ed's coming by to pick you up tonight. Ed will be there the whole time. It's perfectly fine." During lunch, I asked a buddy of Bryant's to sell me weed. This is just she off the chain. I'm from Detroit. I went off the chain like this in school. She say, "Not hardly. Mama unplugging wouldn't buy none of this." She say, "I need a lid." Yeah, I remember my old dude say that's how they used to say it. "I need a lid," I said, "but a lid of your best stuff." Handing me a package wrapped in tinfoil, he assured me that the smoke was top grade. Showing up at the studio with my own dope would show Marvin that I was not a naive schoolgirl. I was a sophisticated woman. After school, I hurried home. I took a long time picking out my outfit. The last time I'd started off wearing braids. No braids tonight. Tonight, I was letting my hair down. "Don't forget that Marvin's a married man," said Mom, a half hour before Ed arrived. "So, just make sure you screw him and get the money, but don't fall in love with him, baby." Is that what that's about? Don't forget he's a married man. You keep her away from this married man. "Please, Mom, am I supposed to believe that you never dated a married man? Besides, Ed told us that Marvin and his wife are separated." "I'm just looking out for you, sweetheart. I just don't want you to get hurt." I ignored my mother's words and waited by the window. The minute Ed pulled up, I was out the door and in his car. As soon as we walked through the doors of the studio, right, words of wisdom from Mama, you ain't lying. I bring it, says heroin, weed. Mother says, okay, 17, right. Okay, say, Fidette, you too much. Sweet Lady 0512, that's what it looked like. She has her daughter in some kind of training. And he almost 40. Hold on. Now look. This is a trip. It's just hard to believe. Okay. I'm just looking out for you, sweetheart. I just don't want you to get hurt. I ignored my mother's words and waited by the window. The minute Ed pulled up, I was out the door and in his car. As soon as we walked through the doors of the studio, I felt myself safely and blissfully back in Marvin's world. That world was about sound and beauty. He was making beautiful sounds with his voice, singing a chillingly pleading song in which he begged his baby to stay. Without you in bed beside me, he implored, sleep will never come. As he sang, his eyes were closed. When he opened them, he looked directly at me, seated on a leather couch in the control room. Marvin was standing on the other side of the glass. His eyes were smiling. He sang for another 20 minutes. I didn't move. It was just me, Ed, the engineer, and Marvin. Unlike last night, there were no other guests, no other mothers or young chicks looking to get next to Marvin. When he finally took a break and came into the control room, he walked directly to me. I'm so happy you came, he said. I really wanted to see you again. I brought you a gift. I handed him the lid of marijuana. Oh, that's really sweet of you, he said. Why don't you roll us a J? An experienced roller, I twisted up a joint in a few seconds and passed it to Marvin. He lit it up and exhaled. The smell was horrendous. Effing elephant weed, the engineer yelled. I was humiliated. I wanted to die. I wanted the floor to open up so I could disappear. Not so fast, gentlemen, said Marvin, super sensitive to my feelings. The fragrance might be a little funky, but the dope itself is pretty mellow. I knew Marvin was lying. The dope was crap. He was just saying that to protect me from the scorn of the others. He was sensitive. He did care about my feelings. The italicized portion is her emphasis, not mine. My emotions soared as he sang for the next several hours. He sang another tender ballad, pleading with a woman not to leave him in the cold. He begged her to stay. The pattern was set. When he sang, his eyes were closed. When his eyes were opened, they stared directly at me. The connection was real. At about 10 p.m., he came back to me and said, Well, it's getting late and I know you have school tomorrow. Maybe I should run you home. Is it far? With my heart hammering, I said, Not far at all. Olympic and Ogden. But I don't want to be a bother. Oh, it's not a bother, he said. It's a distinct pleasure. I couldn't get over the closeness between Marvin's speaking voice and singing voice. When he spoke, it was as though he was singing. And when he was singing, it was as though he was speaking directly to me. Both voices were painfully tender, even more than the softness of his tone. I responded to the beauty of his enunciation. Each word came out whole. Each word seemed exactly right. There was a lyricism to his speech, a haunting and lilting quality, unlike any speech I had ever heard before. His elocution had an easygoing tone. He was down to earth, but he was also otherworldly. He spoke with the quiet confidence of a prince. He spoke very little on the way to my house. I struggled to make small talk, but feared that I'd sound young or naive or foolish. He asked what I thought of his new music. I love it, I was quick to say. I love all your music. Oh, well, thank you. That means a great deal to me. When I record, I'm also wondering whether these songs will mean anything to anyone else besides myself. I'm sure they will, I said shyly. He smiled. I wondered whether I was coming on too strong with all this praise. Shouldn't I be coy? Shouldn't I be cool? I wasn't sure what to say. All I knew was that I loved being in his presence. He made me feel warm and wanted. When we arrived at the duplex I shared with my mother, I couldn't help but invite him up. "Oh, no, I don't want to upset your mom," he said, using the British expression. "Besides, I better get back to the studio. I'm terribly late delivering this record." He walked me to the door and stopped at the bottom of the staircase. That's when my heart stopped. "I want you to know that it's beautiful being with you," he said. "I hope I can get you to come visit me again." "I'd love to." It was then that he placed the palms of his hands on either side of my head. Standing over me, he leaned down and gently kissed my forehead. "Good night, Jan. Sweet dreams." I thought I'd faint. I thought I'd puke. Let's see what's happening. She was young and foolish. I can do the voices. I'm telling you. Entertaining little ones. Gives you strange skills. Anyway, so the next morning, when I described my evening to my mother, she said, "I'm glad you like him, sweetheart, and I'm glad he likes you. I'm glad you got to hear him sing in the studio again. It's wonderful that he called you. But if he doesn't call again, don't take it personally. Sexy singers are a different breed. Believe me, I know. Your father is one of those singers." Rather than reply to Mom, I groaned. That night, while I dreamt of Marvin, Mom must have thought of how she had once dreamt of my father, Slim Gaylord. The dream began when in 1942, 14-year-old Barbara listened to the sounds of a romantic and seductively 14-year-old Barbara listened to the sounds of a romantic and seductively syncopated bebop ballad called Anytime, Anyplace, Anywhere. She swore to her best friend Kathy that come hell or high water, one day she'd marry Slim and have his baby. Mom yearned to escape the oppression of the white working class confines of her Boston family. On the radio and in music magazines, she followed the fortunes of Gaylord and his partner, Slam Stewart. The duo managed to combine dance music with the avant-garde jazz of the day. The romantic rhythms spoke of rebellion. Mom sensed that Slim was a rebel. She read articles that talked about the competitive heat between Slim and Cab Calloway. So her daddy was a contemporary of Cab Calloway. Now, this is just too much for me, okay? I'll mess around and play the lottery tomorrow. If life is like this with all these coincidences, and somebody reads this book and believes that all this is incidental, okay. She read articles that talked. Mom sensed that Slim was a rebel. She read articles that talked about the competitive heat between Slim and Cab Calloway, another entertainer with a thin pencil mustache and gleaming, slicked back hair. Cab represented an older generation of the swing time music of Duke Ellington and Count Basie. To Barbara, Cab was a cornball. Slim was slick. Cab was yesterday. Slim was tomorrow. Slim symbolized adventure, the unknown, daring, dangerous world of dark nightclubs where black men played the mysterious blue music that spoke to Mom's heart. Even as she grew up, even as she suffered through 2 unhappy marriages to white men, she never forgot the mysterious blue music of Slim Gaylord. She never gave up the dream of meeting Slim, and then in 1955, in the middle of the first term of the bland, white bread presidency of Dwight Eisenhower, her dream came true. Mom went to a nightclub where Slim Gaylord was playing. Mom dressed to look like Lana Turner. Low-cut black dress, white-brimmed hat, white gloves. Her brother Don accompanied her. They sat at a table near the stage. The club was dark, the air thick with smoke. Most of the patrons were black. Don was uncomfortable. Mom wasn't. Mom felt at home. Mom drank in the ambiance. Oh, Mom drank in the ambiance. She sipped a glass of cheap champagne. She was thrilled by the jazz music. She recognized the sounds of Charlie Parker and Billie Holiday, Miles Davis, and Sarah Vaughan. Mom's taste was cultivated. She spoke the language of jazz. For years, she yearned to share that language with a man of mystery, a musician. That man was Bulee, Bulee. That's his real first name. That man was Bulee, quote unquote, Slim Gaylord. When he walked onto the small stage and started singing in that language of his own, the scat singing coded language he named Vaut. So he had a certain name for the demonic language that he scattered in. His eyes immediately found Mom. He sang to her, ancestral or generational bondage. He sang to her. He saw her mouthing the words not only to the lush romantic ballads, but to the novelty bop of Flatfoot Floogie, Slim Slam Boogie, and Atomic Cocktail. She was the hippest chick in the club, and he wanted her. After the first set, he came to her table. "I've been digging on your white gloves, madam," he said. "Call me Barbara," she said, "and I've been digging on your music since I was, well, quite young." "You're still quite young, Barbara, and if I might be bold enough to say so, quite beautiful, quite enchanting. I just hope I'm not intruding on your date." "No date," she said. "This is my brother." "Oh, then this is my lucky night. If your brother has no objections, I have big eyes to take you to dinner after the show." Before Don could speak, Mom said, "Don't worry about Don. He has to leave early anyway." The first night was bliss. So was the second. On the third, Slim had to leave for L.A. "Of all the things I've read about you," Mom said before Slim left for the airport, "I still don't know where you come from. You told one writer you're Cuban, but another writer you were born in Deep, Alabama." "I'm a citizen of the world, dear Barbara," said Slim. "I come from nowhere, and I come from everywhere." Whoa, ho, whoa. "Cats catch me if they can. And you, my sweet, have caught me in your Venus flytrap. I'd like to stay, baby, but this brother has to fly away." "And if I fly after you?" asked Mom. "I'd flip, flop, and fly." "You don't got to chase me down, sugar, because when it comes to you, I'm down already, you dig?" "I do." A week after Slim had flown back to California, Mom scraped up enough bread for a ticket and flew the coop herself. She got no in. She beat it out to L.A. and hooked up with Slim for another week of bliss. Didn't matter that he was married. Didn't matter that he had a gang of kids, something like 15. Something like 15 at the last count. All that mattered was that she had her dream come true. Slim was hers. And then he wasn't. Slim had to run out on the road where other women were waiting. He couldn't be burdened with Mom. Mom was fun. Mom was wild in bed. Mom was a hip kitty. But Slim was a tomcat looking for other alleys to prowl. Mom went back to Boston, where she learned she was pregnant with Slim's child. Rather than face the disapproval, she never told her mother. Instead, she decided to leave Boston once and for all. She liked what she had seen of L.A. The mild weather, the tall palm trees, the highway that hugged the coast going up to Malibu. Besides, Slim was in L.A. If she was going to have his child, why not stay in his city? Surely he'd come around to visit. After I was born in 1956, those visits were few and far between. Slim never denied fatherhood, but neither did he take fatherhood seriously. Money was never forthcoming. Mom knew better than to count on Slim for support. Carrying me in a basket, she went to work as a phone operator. She had affairs with all sorts of men, from blues singer Joe Williams to big-time jocks like basketball's Ray Felix and football's Dick Bass. Some of her guys were less than stellar. They included a few notorious junkies, one of whom stole my coin collection. Early on, I understood that Mom needed these men's money to pay the light bill and avoid eviction. This is not good. In 1973, though, Mom was hung up on one man and one only, Earl Hunter. So that's where Janice get her last name from, after her mama got with this man, Earl Hunter. But I'm just trying to figure out what was her name before that. What's her mama's last name? Anyway, I got the book. I can go back and look. So I'm just trying to recall. In 1973, though, Mom was hung up on one man and one only, Earl Hunter. Despite his betrayal, Mom never stopped loving him. And neither did I. It didn't matter that Mom and Earl had broken up. He remained an integral part of our lives. He never failed to come over to the house to check on me. It was 5 days after Marvin Gaye gently kissed me on my forehead, and I hadn't heard from him. Earl came by to comfort me. Mom was tired of my lamentations. She had already warned me about the uncertainties surrounding men like Marvin. Yet I remained convinced that what had transpired between us was real. I didn't simply feel that, I knew that. Earl understood. "All right, honey," he said. "I know you're upset, but what's really happening? Do you really know what's going on in the life of a guy like Marvin Gaye? He's got to be a busy man." "But I know he wants to see me again. He said he did." "Remember Trouble Man?" asked Earl, referring to the movie score Marvin wrote the previous year. "I love Trouble Man, and that picture of him on the cover. You love everything Marvin does. But do you remember the story? Do you remember when he said there's only 3 things for sure? Taxes, death, and trouble." "What are you saying, Daddy?" "I'm not saying nothing, baby, except that Marvin Gaye is calling himself Trouble Man." Hey, wisdom from Daddy. A father figure. Maybe father figure more like the song Father Figure. He didn't look like trouble to me. He looked beautiful. He looked like he didn't have a care in the world. He said he was going to call. So why hasn't he called? He's working. He's singing. He's got a record to make. But I could see that he likes to have people around when he's recording. I'm sure he'll call you, baby. I'll get Mom to call Ed again. Ed is just another hustler looking to make money off Marvin. Ed's a songwriter, I said. Songwriters are the biggest hustlers of all. Yeah, I bet you that song Anger was not written by Ed no type of way. Ed tacked his name on there because of some kind of business deal or agreement or bondage he had with Marvin Gaye. That song, all the songs on here, my dear, was autobiographical. So why would Ed need a writing credit? Unless it was just a lookout. So he says, songwriters are the biggest hustlers of all. Ed wants to keep Marvin happy. If it makes Marvin happy to see you, Ed will arrange it. You don't have to remind him. You don't have to do nothing. That night I got my mother to call Ed again. The news was not good. "Marvin's having his doubts about Jan," said Ed. "What are those doubts?" asked Mom. "He's crazy about her but thinks she's too young. She's a high school girl, for God's sake. How is he crazy about her? They met one time." I'm missing something. I know it's late, but maybe it's me. Maybe this is perfectly normal interactions here. It says, "She's a high school girl, for God's sake. You knew that, Ed, before you asked us over to the studio. You knew that when you were going to get him to sing at her 17th birthday party. Look, I'm the man in the middle here. I got no agenda. I'm just saying that your daughter has really messed up his mind. Matter of fact, he's going out to the desert somewhere beyond Palm Springs." What's in the desert? Mushrooms, said Ed. The cat likes to trip and read Carlos Castaneda. Oh, have mercy. Wow. Wow. This is a trip. Okay. The news broke my heart. What difference did my age make? According to my English teacher, Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet was the greatest love story ever written. In the play, Juliet was 14, 3 years younger than me. The teacher said that Shakespeare, with his uncanny insights into the human mind, understood that teenage passion and love was as legitimate as any passion and love. Not to mention he was a pedophile freak behind closed doors like the rest of them. In truth, love lives in the hearts of youth with its own special energy. Sounds very Crowleyan to me. Yeah, we didn't figure this out. I felt that energy. I felt love leading me back to Marvin. Evil. Love would surely lead him back to me. And yet, he was not calling. He was in the desert. Ed said he'd be gone for months. That night, I dreamt of tripping in the desert with Marvin. It was a crazy dream in which Marvin and I were running through fields of wildflowers. It wasn't clear whether he was chasing me or I was chasing him. Either way, we lost track of each other. We couldn't find our way back. The dream was exciting and bewildering. I awoke feeling frightened and frustrated. 2 days later, frustration turned to joy. It was late in the afternoon. I just returned home from school. The phone rang. Mom picked it up. Every time the phone rang, I prayed it was Ed. This time it was. I tried to listen, but I couldn't make out Ed's words. When the short conversation was complete, Mom smiled. He wants to see you, she said. When? I asked. Tonight. What time will Ed pick me up? Ed isn't coming by. Marvin is. And we're going to let that breathe for a second while I cut on the heat for a second and go into the next chapter. Come get to this. And I think we are all coming up with the same impression. Yep, we're all coming up with the same impression, and that is that this young lady is being groomed for something bigger than this. This is not no chance meeting, and this Ed guy is more than likely some sort of pimp or procurer of young women for entertainers. So those things are becoming very clear. And then for them to not have no clear income outside of messing with people who have an income, she's certainly in the company of some very affluent individuals. Why? She know the Jackson brothers? In school. They go to school together. What's really going on? All right, come get to this is the next part. Let's see what folks are saying quickly. Let's see here. I'm going to go back here. I think somebody has a box of wine before they get online. Vinette Glau says, so fragmented and grounded in disappointment. And I pray that they be loose from anything that's standing in the way of them being in their power, love, and sound mind as promised by 2 Timothy 1:7, in the authority of the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, in the power of his name, we touch and agree and call it done. Big Nisi Money says it's like a geisha girl or something. Yeah. Cupcake 701 says this heifer thought she was the only woman in this man's life that was already married. Oh my God, this Janice chick was so dizzy. Yes, Carlos Castaneda. That was mind blowing. I didn't remember that from Here, My Dear. Yep, she's a kid. And you know, we gotta keep that in mind. And a victim. Christy Joyce said, what a load of bull. Black Blonde 916 says, I think Marvin was a closet freak. I think he was out the closet. Christy Joy said, messed up. Indeed. Kanka Kong, I wonder if Janice actually believes she just happened to be there. Sounds like Marvin's manager set it up through her mom. You know, Janice could have been an unwitting participant in all of this. The one that don't have to know is Janice. Wow, this is... Yeah, right. Sister Alona, they seem poor, but yet she's got this access. Okay, let's go. Thank you, Lord. Amen. That's right. Yeah. All right, come get to this. Right, and the the magic mushroom and all that stuff, that really does a number on you. Come get to this. The next chapter. I was excited beyond words. I was excited beyond words. Mom helped me put together what we both considered a sophisticated outfit. A low-cut, form-fitting black dress, matching high heels, gold hoop earrings. I was still troubled by the idea that Marvin thought I might be too young. So tonight I wanted to look older. I wanted to look right. When the doorbell rang and Marvin Gaye was actually standing there, I was relieved. I'd been worried that he might not show. But not only did he appear, he was absolutely glowing. His outfit was casual, a dark tweed sport coat over blue jeans, a small diamond stud in his right ear, a fresh pair of high-top white sneakers. The trademark wool skull cap that he wore in the studio had been removed. His hair, a close-cropped natural, was gleaming. He had trimmed his beard. The cologne he had splashed on his face had a fresh lime fragrance. In his own Marvin Gaye way, he had dressed up for the date. His demeanor said that he cared. He opened the door of his maroon Lincoln sedan for me. So Marvin was driving back into the Lincoln? Probably was a big one. I slipped into the passenger seat, apprehensive about the evening ahead. Would I be able to keep up my side of the conversation? Hey, peace. What's going on, New World, Rob? Okay. Would I be able to keep up my side of the conversation? Would he find me too juvenile? Would he discover that we lived in two distinct worlds with little in common? Within a few minutes, my fears disappeared. Marvin put me at ease. Everything about him was easy. Words fell easily out of his mouth. The words were gentle, never harsh. He was genuinely curious about my life. How was my day? What did I like and not like about school? This is what you do in his position. In what subjects did I excel? Freely he offered memories of his time in school, some good, some bad. I asked about his trip to the desert. What were you doing all that time out in the desert? Ed said something about mushrooms. Marvin broke into a smile. His eyes were smiling when he said, "Shrooms are fascinating. Tripping is really something else. Reality takes another turn. You must be ready for that turn, though. You must be ready to step out of your ego and look back at yourself. There's a book called A Separate Reality by a man named Carlos Castaneda. If I gave it to you, would you read it?" Of course, I love to read. He says reality is what we make it. Your energy changes my reality, for example, just as my mind changes yours. He talks about how we have to learn to open the doors to our dreams. How do we do that, I asked. It's already happening. We just have to wake up and accept the fact that we're inside our dreams. Find myself awaiting. Sound like a ramp song. We're actually living those dreams. I was in a dreamlike state as we arrived in an old-school Italian restaurant in Hollywood. We were seated in a dark, secluded corner. The decor was far from fabulous, but the place was quiet and comfortable. I noticed Mama Cass Elliott from the Mamas and Papas at a nearby table and asked Marvin if he'd introduce me. Like most girls my age, like most everyone for that matter, I'd always been fascinated by stars. Right. Wow. All messed up. Okay. Like most everyone for that matter, I'd always been fascinated by stars. He walked over to chat with Mama Cass. After a few seconds, he motioned me over. She was extremely sweet. Marvin is giving her books toward mind control. Go ahead, sweet lady 05112. She is totally a victim. Yeah, that's right. We can't forget that, man. Marvin is giving her books to indoctrinate her young, innocent mind. She's totally a victim. Mm, mm, mm. Have mercy. Mercy. Okay. Wow. All right. Here we go. Okay. She was extremely sweet. Mama Cass was extremely sweet. Your date is a doll, she told Marvin. A year later, when Mama Cass died a tragic death, I thought of our encounter. Back at our table, Marvin said, I'm going to be a little naughty. What do you mean? I asked. Watch. He ordered an apricot sour for each of us. The waiter scrutinized me and was about to question my age when Marvin slipped him a 20. The waiter nodded and returned with the drinks. This is bad, bad, bad. Yeah, it looked like they got Mama Cass. Well, you know, they were saying she was threatening to talk about what she knew concerning Jimi Hendrix. My understanding. Okay. Says, the waiter scrutinized me and was about to question my age when Marvin slipped him a 20. The waiter nodded and returned with the drinks. It's my favorite, said Marvin. I want to try it. It tastes like apricot juice. You won't taste the liquor, but it will help you relax. I don't seem relaxed, I asked. You're fine. Just have a taste. Do you believe in fate? I believe in Jesus. I believe in doing His will. If His will is done, we find love in great abundance. But how do we know if we're doing His will? We know when we're not, that's for sure. I like this apricot sour. You'll like the chicken cacciatore too. Is it okay if I order it for you? No, is it okay if I order for you? Please. The subject changed to music. So, do you like the new stuff you've been hearing in the studio? Yes, definitely. If you didn't like it, would you tell me? I can't imagine not liking your music. I can't believe my good fortune in meeting you. I'm feeling something with you, something strong. Marvin took my hand. My heart melted. It was probably hot from all that liquor in your chest. The dinner conversation turned to the subject of searching. Marvin explained that the search never stops. I wanted clarity. What search was he talking about? The search for the truth. How do you recognize the truth? When something is pure. Marvin said that he viewed me as pure. This is crowdy talk. A second apricot sour emboldened me to be candid. Not quite, I admitted. Pure of heart, he said. He complimented my complexion. I feel you, Big Nisi Money. But we gotta not give up hope and don't let our hearts wax cold. He said, he complimented my complexion. He said that he loved my freckles. I said that I loved his dark brown eyes. They always look like they're searching for something or someone, I said. He said he'd been searching for his muse. Yes, I remember this now. He sure did say that. Found Janice. He said he'd been searching for his muse. Every artist needs a muse. What does the muse do for an artist, I asked, that an artist can't do for himself? Surprised at the maturity of my question, Marvin leaned back, closed his eyes, and said, "She inspires. Her job is to inspire." I wanted to ask, "Do I inspire?" But the question felt too needy. Instead, I asked, "Is the muse always a lady?" "A beautiful young lady with freckles on her face." The chicken cacciatore arrived. It was tender. Marvin began opening up. I saw how he was searching to escape a marriage that had broken his heart. Would divorce the woman then. Sheesh. I also began to speak about my own difficult domestic situation. I was the product of a sadly broken family. His childhood was as nightmarishly confusing as mine. Sadness surrounded us both. Beauty surrounded us both. He said that the sheer beauty of my delicate facial features enthralled him. I was similarly enthralled by the fact that he was not simply fine, but stunningly so. For the moment, physical beauty erased the memories of old pain. Over potent apricot sours and tender chicken cacciatore, something spiritual was happening. The spirit lived in our hearts with spirit. The spirit lived in our hearts even as it excited our bodies. In the car on the way home, Marvin reached over to take my hand. "I have a tape from a session I did yesterday," he said. "Would you like to hear it?" "Yes, please." Riding in Marvin's Lincoln, listening to Marvin singing, I could not help but be transported. How could I not be tripping? His voice was velvet, but it was also unspeakably sad. He was singing about death, his own deaths. The lyrics, yes, his own death. The lyrics said that were he to die tonight, it would be before his time. But that wouldn't matter. He wouldn't die sad because he had known you. He had found true love. It was an elegy, a plaintive melody that stirred my heart. I wanted to ask if I was the you. Was I the muse? "I wrote this after I met you," said Marvin. He pulled up to the duplex where I lived with Mom and turned off the engine. That's when he reached over and brought me to him. I did not resist. He kissed me deeply. He kissed me again. The kisses lingered. The heat built. "Would you like to come upstairs?" I asked. "I would," he answered. I can't wait to get Divided Soul, man. I got to see what's going on here. In her bedroom with the door closed, Mom was asleep and lost in a dream of her own. Marvin and I went into a small TV room where there was a couch and an easy chair. I sat on the sofa, wanting Marvin to join me. Instead, he sat in the easy chair, leaned back, and motioned for me to sit on the floor between his legs that were spread apart. I understood what this man, who was great, famous, richly talented, and beautiful, was asking. He took his time, stroking my hair, holding my head in his hands, pressing it down into his lap. I could feel his excitement. I felt panicky and cool at the same time. Bryant and I had engaged in oral sex, so I knew what he wanted. But Marvin had his own way of building up the drama. He liked to tease. First, he offered himself to me, but then withdrew. All the while, he spoke softly, praising my mouth and my lips. Finally, he allowed me to pleasure him. I looked up to see how much he enjoyed watching. Afterward, he was in no hurry to leave. "May I ask you one favor?" "Of course," I said. "I know your name is Janice, but I see you more as a Jan. Would you mind if I called you Jan?" My heart beating wildly. I could barely say the word yes. Or was that Janis Joplin? Maybe I was thinking about Janis Joplin when I just said Mama Cass. Forgive me if I did. I misspoke. My heart beating wildly, I could barely say the word yes. I was christened with a new name. Marvin was turning me into a new person. Yeah, he named you Jen. "That was beautiful, Jan. You're beautiful. Thank you for a beautiful evening." When I got with Marvin, I felt like it was meant to be. I know everybody's minds is just tripping. I know everybody's tripping out. I know you're tripping out. So am I. So am I. I had totally forgotten so many things. And as I'm reading this, Black Blonde is something you said about Marvin being a freak. Yeah, I remember now. I remember about something coming out that he sang about. A couple things, but one thing in particular. He's gonna get. Yeah, I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it. But yeah, and I'm telling you, it's something goes on here where she's gonna mess with other stars. I'm just gonna say that. So now let's see. There. Okay, come on. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Let me read. I mean, the whole thing. The whole thing is witchcraft. In essence, we're talking about pedophilism. We're talking about Crowleyism. Marvin Gaye getting high, getting her high, and then manipulating her mind, flattering her like the whisperer with his whispering soft voice, and flattering her and fooling this little girl. Her mama being complicit in it, and this dude from Motown being complicit in it. And we've already indicted Motown for pimping on the side. I mean, hey, not even on the side, pimping in the front. Let's read. This is a trip. Okay. And of course, after that, he gonna tell her, "Thank you, you're beautiful. Thank you for a beautiful evening." When I got with Marvin, I felt like it was meant to be, that this was my authentic life. I wanted to keep it. I wanted to have Marvin forever and in every way. I believed the best way to go about this was to be everything he needed me to be. I wanted to please him in every way. I wanted to be the woman with the most engaging and unforgettable conversation. I wanted to please him in bed with my passion and adventurous nature. I wanted to be that girl who was everything to him. In his long list of women, I wanted to be remembered. I wanted to be the exception, the woman who said yes to almost anything. I wanted to be the personification of the dream girl he sang about in his songs or has in his head. He was moving out of a relationship with a much older woman. I was young. I wanted to make him feel special and that he deserved all the goodness the world had to offer. She's very delusional. In the morning, Mom had questions about my date with Marvin. Yeah, I wonder how much you're going to tell her. But I had few answers. I didn't want to talk about it. Thinking back to the night before, I realized that Marvin must have relished the fact that while I was on my knees, my mom was asleep in the next room only a few feet away. He could have suggested that we go to his place, or a hotel, or even in his car. Why did he want me to pleasure him with Mom so close by? I decided that it didn't matter. The sex was far from what I wanted, but it was a start. He was testing my willingness to follow his lead. And yes, I was more than willing to follow. As long as he was a gentleman, Mom told me at the kitchen table. That's all Mom cared about. And did you get the money, baby? He was. And you think you'll actually hear from him again? I know I will. When he came to fetch me 2 days later, just like a dog, when he came to fetch me 2 days later, it was not to take me to the studio or a restaurant, but to his apartment. Well, I thought we could hang out here, just the two of us. What do you think? I love it. I expected that Marvin, separated from his wife, would have lived in a luxurious pad somewhere high in the Hollywood hills. Although I didn't know the details of Marvin's separation, Ed Townsend, a Motown insider, had filled me in. Now here's the right. Elaine C. said, "How gentlemanly." Right. Check it out. It says, here, let's do what I need to do. Okay, it says, I don't know what they're talking about. What was I? Okay. Ed Townsend. That's whose name was on that record, right? Yeah, Ed Townsend, a Motown insider, had filled me in. So here goes the dirt on Berry's sisters. Marvin's wife, Anna Gordy Gay, was 51, 18 years older than Marvin, and 7 years older than my mother. By all accounts, she was a formidable woman. Some claimed that she, along with her sisters Gwen and Esther, represented the power behind Berry's throne. Yeah, one of the sisters went with Smokey. Berry has entrepreneurial energy, Ed told me a few days after I met Marvin, but nothing like his sisters. Those gals really know how to hustle. Check it out. Anna and Gwen ran the photography concession at the 20 Grand, the hot night spot in Detroit. Now, see, when I tell y'all anecdotes from Detroit, you see they 1,000. Now, you see, I never read this book before a day in my life. It said, they were in the middle of all the action, so no wonder Marvin Gaye would be seen there. Okay. They were in the middle of all the action. Not only were they savvy in business, they were glamour girls. You know how Marvin met Anna, don't you? No, I said. He was a doo-wop singer in Harvey Fuqua's Moon Glows. Harvey was the master doo-wopper and also a slick music hustler. Doo-wop was a beautiful style of singing, but doo-wop was dying, and Harvey had to bust a move. In the early 60s, Motown was jumping off, so Harvey disbanded the Moon Glows and took Marvin, his best singer, and went to Detroit. That's how it happened. First thing Harvey did was start his own label, Harvey Records, and sign his first singer, Mr. Marvin Gaye. He signed him for life. Before you knew it, though, Harvey Records was absorbed by Anna Records, Marvin's sister, which already had big-time talent like the Spinners and Joe Tex. By then, Anna Records was run by Gwen Gordy, who soon became Miss Harvey Fuqua. And while Gwen hooked up with Harvey, Anna hooked up with Marvin. Remember, Marvin hadn't even turned 21, and Miss Anna was pushing 40. Marvin started out as a studio drummer. Yeah, he played the drums on T Plays It Cool, the song that we started off this video with. It says, he started off as a studio drummer, a part-time session man, playing behind the Miracles of Smokey Robinson fame. Didn't take Anna long to see that the boy was not only a great singer and a fabulous writer, but a flat-out genius. She was the one who brought him to Berry's attention. One thing about Berry, he knows his sisters are smart and he listens to every GD word they say. So even though Harvey had signed Marvin for life, Berry paid off Harvey and Marvin was his. And Anna? I asked. Hell yes. Anna was the one who molded him. You could say Anna made him. She knew he had to reinvent himself. She didn't want to know about his low-class upbringing in Washington, D.C., with his weird-ass father, a preacher man who liked running around the house in his wife's clothing. Oh, no. Anna and them were a solid, middle-class black family ascending to the upper class. The Gordys were tight-knit, and Marvin knew that by marrying into the family, he'd have a leg up on the competition. And at Motown, it was all about competition. There was a lot of inner rivalry, yeah. His first idea, though, was to avoid the cats competing for R&B hits and to sing straight-ahead ballads like Sinatra. He used to talk about how he was going to have his own TV show like Nat King Cole. He saw himself, it's Marvin, he saw himself wearing a cardigan sweater or a tux, sitting on a stool and crooning A Foggy Day in London Town. Your boy wasn't a dancer. He didn't want to get up there and shimmy and shake. Because Anna had so much sway with Berry, she talked her brother into letting Marvin record those ballads and hoped he'd sell millions of records like Tony Bennett or Andy Williams. Problem was, his records didn't sell spit. So while Marvin was messing around singing his version of My Funny Valentine that no one wanted to hear, Mary Wells was singing Smokey Robinson's My Guy that everyone wanted to hear. Everywhere Marvin looked, whether it was the Miracles or the Marvelettes or the Contours, he saw the other acts cutting hits. He wanted a hit of his own. Now Marvin is stubborn, and he sticks to his guns longer than most men. But Marvin also saw himself as a winner. When that Motown assembly line got to turning out one hot-selling product after another, he sure as spit didn't want to be left behind. So guess what he did? I don't know, I said. Well, I do, said Ed. He turned his attitude into a hit song. He wrote about a stubborn kind of fella. That was his first hit. After that, he was off to the races. And all those other songs that he sang in the 60s, he wrote them as well. Some he did, others he didn't. He did write Dancing in the Streets for Martha and the Vandellas. And he did write Hitchhike, where he actually had to do a little hitchhike dance. I saw him do it on American Bandstand. It was like he had two left feet. Shut up, Ed, I said, laughing. I thought he was graceful. I thought he was gorgeous. The beautiful thing about Marvin is that as a writer, he's a collaborator. Hardly wrote anything alone. He needs to be sparked by a guitar lick, a piano line, a groove, or a lyric. Then he does the rest. It's like the record we're doing now. The one you've been hearing over at the studio. Did I tell you he's calling it Let's Get It On? It's the sexiest song on the record. You telling me. I gave him the groove and he did the rest. Same thing back in the early 60s when he wrote Pride and Joy with Mickey Stevenson and Norman Whitfield. That's his ode to Anna. Pride and Joy. Did he love her? Does he still love her? Listen, you can't go asking me questions like that. Why not? Because I don't have the answers. You see, those two people have put each other through hell. Lord only knows the damage they've done to each other. In what ways? In all ways. So what took him so long to move out? Truth is, Anna got Marvin to work when no one else could. Marvin's a dreamer. Marvin's a philosopher. The boy's a poet. He really should be living on some island in Tahiti eating coconuts and singing songs to the birds. I don't think Marvin was made for this world. He's too sensitive. Show business is about the grind. Show business is cold. Show business says you ain't no better than your last hit. Knowing that, Anna was always yelling at Marvin to get back in the studio and cut another hit. Stop dreaming, baby, she'd say, and start working. Part of Marvin is lazy, but part of him is ambitious. She lit the fire under his ambition. Sounds like she was in charge, I said. No doubt she mothered him. Excuse me. But Anna was also a sexy woman. She was a sexy mother. She was a lot worldlier than Marvin. When it came to sex, I believe she schooled him. And because he was so fine with all these young chicks chasing after him, I believe he tortured her. I believe they tortured each other. Because I know that Anna had affairs of her own. Norman Whitfield wrote, I heard it through the grapevine. But when Marvin sang it, I know G.D. well he was thinking about Anna. What about those duets, Ed, when he was singing with Mary Wells and Kim Weston and Tammy Terrell? Were they also his girlfriends? I don't think so. They were beautiful ladies, but they were aggressive women. Marvin doesn't go for the aggressive type. He likes them shy. He likes them demure. That's why he likes you. You easy to control. When he sang with them, though, he made you believe that something real was happening between the two of them. That was me saying, because you're easy to control. That's because he's a great singer, and great singers are great actors. I just recently heard somebody say the same thing. Marvin could sing any song with any producer. That's another reason why he had that long string of hits in the 60s. He could take tunes written by, say, Holland Dozier Holland, the hottest of the Motown producers, and reshape them to fit his style. That's what happened with How Sweet It Is. Same thing with Smokey Robinson. Smokey wrote Ain't That Peculiar, but he'll be the first to tell you that Marvin made it his own. Marvin knew how to work with that Motown machine. But I've heard him say how much he hates the business. He's always talking about Motown's heavy hand in dealing with their artists. Marvin's a rebel, Jan. You got to understand that. He's Aries the Ram, a hard-headed MFer. Hates authority, hates being told what to do, natural-born contrarian. So on one hand, you got a cat who wants to make it, a cat who sees the hit factory working overtime and isn't about to miss out on his share of the good stuff coming off the assembly line. And on the other hand, you got a man who's been fighting father figures his whole life. He told me how he defied his own daddy, only to get these badass whippings. He also told me how he got thrown out of the Air Force because he wouldn't obey orders. So here comes Berry Gordy, father figure supreme. Barry's a controller. He's got to be. He's got to. He's got to herd all those stray. He's got to herd all these stray cats running around Motown. He's the effing boss. But please do not try and boss Marvin Gaye. It might work for a little while, but then it'll blow up in your face. That's what happened when Marvin did What's Going On. What happened? I asked. Now this is contrived, as if he sat here and explained all of this to her at this time, and she actually remembered it all. Anyway, what happened, I asked. All hell broke loose. It was at the end of the 60s, and Marvin was fed up being produced by Holland Dozier Holland and Norman Whitfield. He was going to produce himself. He wanted to do more than turn out hit singles. He wanted to do a whole concept album. That meant turning the whole system upside down. It caused a revolution. You see, Barry, the dictator who actually put a portrait of himself as Napoleon over his fireplace, do you hear me? Barry is essentially a producer, and so the company was a reflection of him. Producers ran the show. Producers wrote the songs and then decided which artists would sing them. Then the producers ran the sessions in the studio. Marvin saw that as backwards. He felt like the artist, not the producer, was king. When he did What's Going On, it was a palace revolution. He was so different. It was so different from anything else he'd done. He wanted to paint on a bigger canvas. He had a concept. The idea came from his brother Frankie, who'd been over in Vietnam, where he wrote Marvin letters about the horrors of the war. That broke Marvin's heart. He looked around the country and saw all this devastation. So he took out his musical brushes and started painting the picture. He was creating a landscape. He wasn't thinking about hit songs. He was just thinking about telling it like it is. Barry didn't get it. When he heard it, he said it'd never sell. It'd never sell. This was coming after Marvin had all those big hits with Tammy Terrell. More than ever, Marvin was looked on as the love man that was all about romance. But What's Going On was all about reality. Barry said, I ain't putting it out. Then Marvin said, fine, but I'll never sing another effing note for you again. Barry had no choice. He released it, and the world went crazy. The world finally saw Marvin for the genius that he is. Barry had to eat his words. The producer was no longer king. Marvin, the artist, was king. You probably already know this, Jan. But after Marvin made his Declaration of Independence, Stevie Wonder joined the revolution. He followed Marvin down that same road, first with Where I'm Coming From, and last year with Music of My Mind, Stevie said. I'm producing myself, singing my own songs, doing it my own way. And everything you're doing in the studio now, I said, all these songs about love and sex, where are they coming from? You don't have to ask me that, Jan. You already know the answer. The man's in love. And that is the end of the second chapter. Let's see what folks are saying. I thank folks who are giving the thumbs up. Thanks to everybody that hung in there on the Eastern Standard Time side of things. It is 6:04 a.m. So I thank you so much for everybody. Yeah, we just wanted to read. Well, I did 2 chapters last time. I intended on doing 2 this time, and I'm about out of gas. So it's 6:06 a.m. New World Rob, welcome. He said this was excellent. Black Blonde 916 says, man, I want to hear more. Cocoa Puff said, loved it. Wasn't this a mess? This was better than looking at Jerry Springer in the morning time or any of that. This is better than the judge shows. Queen of Hebrew, I'm glad that you was able to join us. Welcome. And yes, I touch and agree. May your queenly business prospects prevail. Amen. Elaine C says, I went to sleep and came back. Have to go to work. Okay. Well, yeah. Same here. So we're going to say good night. I hope to meet y'all again Wednesday night. If the Lord says the same, we're going to come back and do another live dealing with healing, counseling, prayer, divided right. And, of course, Songwriter's Secret on Saturday night. And maybe, because this story is so juicy, don't y'all want to see some more about this sooner rather than later? So maybe, it's just reading. Maybe I'll just pop on here and read another 2 chapters tonight, tomorrow night. Well, yeah, technically tonight as well. That was a trip. That was a total trip. I couldn't even believe what I was reading. And very revealing to the inner workings of things. Vinette Glaude said, that was fascinating. What an amazing story. Too much dirt. Jordan Copeland says, Marvin Gaye was a creep. Yeah, no doubt. Sweet Lady 0512. Hey, brother, you have more energy than anybody I ever not seen. I'm trying to tell you, I'm a machine. Christy Joy, thank you for being here. And thank you for appreciating my Marvin impression. I've been working on it for many years. I never knew when I was going to ever need to use it. So you never know. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Hey, stay ready. You ain't got to get ready. All right. I love you all. Let us touch and agree. Right. Right. Just be that robot. Sometime I have to be. So it's time. And good night. Good night, everybody. And thank you so much. Right. That's right. As long as the Lord, allows it. As long as I'm still alive to see it and the creek don't rise, we shall come on back and read some more soon. Maybe tomorrow night. But yes, soon. Very soon. Please do give your comments on that scurrilous story that we just made our way through. I need to immediately hit the shower. So I thank you. And rinse out my mouth with some Lavaris. Need something strong and old. Listerine. Julie Vito, blessings to you. Christy Joy, thank you. Thank you all. And yes, I really enjoy all of the thoughts and comments that you guys bring, the great conversations that happen inside the chat room. Are unbelievable. I can't describe it. I can't describe it for you. If you're listening back, you just need to meet up one time in the chat, and I'm sure you'll be anxious to come back. Days of Noah dropped in. I always appreciate seeing him come through, and all of the 24 and 24 Sharpen Knives crew. I love y'all all, and may you all have a peaceful and restful night's sleep and sweet dreams to go along with your sweet sleep. Okay? So, good morning to all of y'all. I don't know what you say when you get ready to turn it in at 6 in the morning. 6 in the morning. Maybe next time that's what I need to do. I tell you, I was born around this time. That's the only thing. My functions start getting weirdish because I can feel myself getting too silly and all that, and that means I need to lay down. So that's what time it is. Love y'all. And let's just touch and agree in a quick prayer. We touch and agree in the authority of the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and the power of his name. Father, we ask, Lord, that you would please bind to all of us. Heavenly Father, bind to everyone within the sound of my voice, listening back to the recording, and everybody that's here live, certainly. Father, please bind to all of us, Lord, your 2 Timothy 1:7, power, love, and sound mind to all of us. A hedge of protection greater than you gave Job in Job chapter 1, verse 10. The whole armor of God from Ephesians 6. Bind to us Psalm 23 and Psalm 91, protections and peace throughout the night season. In Jesus' name, and Father, we ask all these things according to your word and your will for our lives. And we touch and we agree and we ask that it would be, and we call it done in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, the Son. Amen. Thank you, Father. All right. Night, night. Good night. Dun-dun, 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 dun. Peace and blessings to all of y'all. Peace and blessings to you. Not your average white girl. Good to see you in the house. Hadn't seen you. Until next time. Peace and love. Love to all of you.